Hey guys, it's ANicWin, also known as Amy, and happy Monday, happy Halloween. I hope you're having a lovely day. If you decide to go trick-or-treating later, please be careful, be safe, be vigilant, don't accept things from strangers, especially if it's suspicious. Check your candy. Look both ways before you cross the street. Do all of the things. People kind of tend to forget. They get caught up in the excitement and things happen. So just be careful, stay safe. That's all I'm trying to say. But today we have kind of a Halloween special is what I would classify this as. We have Hagrid's hut. I'm calling it Hagrid's pumpkin patch because the pumpkin patch is featured. Now I'm not building this in the fall season. I don't have an active sim on the lot just because we're building in Henford-on-Bagley and all of the trees in Henford-on-Bagley turn kind of this deep purple color and it's pretty, but it wasn't the vibe. When you see is a hiccup already. When you see Hagrid's hut in the fall on set, granted it's a movie set, but when you see it, the trees, everything's kind of gloomy because it's backed up against the dark forest. That's wrong. The forbidden forest. Everything is kind of dark and gloomy and spooky. And purple just does not spark gloom and doom, right? It doesn't. It doesn't. So I built this in like just the default building mode. So it's summer and all of the trees are still very kind of lush and full. And most of them are evergreen trees, which don't turn with the seasons anyway. They molt, but they don't lose their leaves. So I felt like it kind of made sense. I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. But I was so excited to do this. I wasn't sure if it was going to line up just because I had another build like totally uploaded and ready to go. I've pulled it down. You're going to see it next Monday. But by the time I realized that this Monday, today, right now, is Halloween, I was like entering in kind of a busy weekend. It was Thursday night. I had a family dinner on Friday, which I've already gone to. It's Sunday now, just for context. So I had a family dinner Friday night. I knew I was going to be at a wedding most of the day on Saturday and getting ready for it for when I wasn't there because I was a bridesmaid. And so that left Sunday really for a big bulk of the work, and it just ended up lining up. So I got home Friday night, was able to build it. It took about 2 hours, but I got it done. And then Saturday, I woke up, got ready. If you saw my Instagram story, not that you had to have, but if you happened to catch it, I did post a little selfie with the bride. She was the one with the pink hair and one of the other bridesmaids. They're both really good friends of mine. And I got home at like, I don't know, 8:30, 9 o'clock on Saturday. Was able to sit down and edit this. And here it is Sunday afternoon. It's about 4 o'clock and I am doing the voiceover. So it all just sort of lined up, which tells me that the universe really wanted this to happen. And I couldn't agree more. So I used a ton of the terrain manipulation, not really a ton. I'm not very good at it. I'm decent, I would say. I'm not horrible. I kind of understand how to use the tools and how to make it do what I want it to do, but I'm not very creative in using it in unique ways, I feel. However, stuff like this is really easy to me. Maybe it's because I live in Kentucky and there's a lot of rolling hills, but I kind of understand where the ground should dip and like rise, stuff like that. And Hagrid's cottage is kind of like on a hillside, really. In the first movie, it's not, it's on flat ground, but I think it's in the second movie as well. But when Prisoner of Azkaban starts, they actually moved the filming location. I don't know where, I'm not that big of a mega fan, I'd have to look that up. But they moved the location and Hagrid's hut was kind of down a hillside. It kind of looked like the forest started in a little bit of a ravine. So I didn't want to leave the lot completely flat, and I'm thrilled with that decision because it made placing all these rocks and stumps and trees and everything fun, first of all, but it also made everything look a little bit more mystical, magical. It just brought it all to life for me, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah. Now I did not play test the build at all, the interior, because I don't really care if it's functional. I got excited and stuttered a little bit. I don't care if it's functional. I just wanted it to look a certain way. But in saying that, the only issue you'll really have is in the kitchen. You won't be able to cook. I'm telling you that right now. I don't think any of it works. I did place a burner, so maybe you could get a meal or two out of that, but there's no refrigerator. There's nothing. So I don't, good luck. I don't know. But I wasn't really worried about that because the appliances, particularly the kitchen appliances, just don't fit in with what Hagrid would have had because he was cooking on an open flame. We all know he was. He had that massive fireplace with the little thing that swivels the pots in and out. I mean, he was cooking on that flame. He was not cooking on a stove, and you can't change my mind. You just can't. But yeah, I wasn't really worried about functionality. I almost never say that. So at first it felt a little bit weird to really commit to that, but then I was like, no, we're going fantasy. It's fine. We're not going to stress about it being functional. Wow. Whoo. The words got away from me there. Now, I'm a massive Harry Potter fan. I think I've talked about this briefly at least once, definitely when I was doing the night bus. And we'll talk about it now. I always have been. The first book was released like the summer of 1997. I was like 4.5. I was not old enough to really read it. But I will say, when I was in first grade, this was 1998. I think it was 1998. I say that's a confusing thought, but anyway, it was 1998, and my older brother, I have older siblings, brought home Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone to read for class, for school. I don't know if he ever read it, but I definitely took his book. I still have it. It's in there on my bookshelf. It has the elementary school name and the number written on it. It was book number 20. I stole it. I blatantly stole that book. Now, I was too young to really fully comprehend that was not something you should do, to be fair. And also, that school is now closed, so I can't return it if I feel guilty. It's just mine now. And to be honest, we probably ended up paying for that at the end of the year because I 100% did not hand it over if anybody asked me for it. So here we are. We can't change things, but that definitely happened. And I read it. I don't remember how old I was when I actually read it. I know I took the book because I liked the way that it looked. I liked the cover. And I think it was my mom had read a little bit of it out loud to him, I think. And I just happened to overhear it because when my mom was home, I wasn't far away from her. That made it sound like she's an absent parent. She wasn't. My mom worked night shifts. And so a lot of the times, like, she was gone or sleeping. So when she was awake and present, I was like right by her. Anyway, I think she read some of it out loud and I wanted to read more and just like couldn't. I was an early reader and my reading and comprehension skills have always been top notch, but I sincerely doubt I was reading Harry Potter at 5, It was later. But I do remember the releases for let me see. I remember the 4th one, Goblet of Fire. Didn't like that book when it came out. Still don't like it. And the subsequent next 3 books, Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince, and I can't remember the 7th book right now. She's such a mega fan, y'all. But those 3, I actually my grandfather bought all 3 of them for me. As they came out. And so that's like a special little memory as well. He passed away when I was 16. So one of them, he wrote like a little message in, and like I always joked, and this is a horrible joke, but I have a little bit of a morbid sense of humor, so forgive me. But I always joked if we had a house fire, like I'm grabbing that book and I'm grabbing like my dog and then I'm out of the house. Everything else can burn, but those are the 2 things that are important to me. I know that's really morbid, but that just kind of gives you an idea of how wrapped up, intertwined and meshed my life is with this world, this franchise. So I'm blabbering a lot. I feel like I'm talking a lot. I don't know. I feel like it's been a part of my life for so long that it feels like it's part of my personality. Maybe that's toxic. I have no idea, but I'm not trying to change it. So here we are. Now you may have noticed as we're doing the exterior that I've done a lot of cuts. You've probably seen quite a few transitions, and that's just because I was using the tool mod like it was my full-time job, and whenever it got really repetitive, I just cut it because you don't need to see me sink grass into the ground for 25 minutes using -25, -25 1,000 times. It got really repetitive to edit as well. So I did cut quite a bit, but I left enough that you could see what I was doing, what was happening. So I lined the pathways with grass I sunk a ton of rocks into the hillside, a ton of plants we had to move down. Whenever you use terrain manipulation tools, my accent is trying to come out full force, guys. But whenever you use those tools, because the ground's like uneven, your plants, your objects, whatever it may be, is going to snap to the highest point. It's not going to snap to the lowest point. And I get the logic, but I hate it, because if you don't have tool mod, you have to completely decorate the ground, then use the terrain manipulation to raise everything up, and then it will kind of settle in a more natural way. But like, who's doing that? That's backwards to me. I say that I've definitely done that before, but it's hard because you have to really picture where you're going to have everything raised up. And if you've already built the house, it's hard for me. It works better if I raise the ground and then sort of decorate what I have. So, which is what I did. Now, as you can see, the pumpkin patch is on the right. We have the forbidden forest along the sides and to the back. We've got a few trails that lead off to different directions. I imagine that there are 2 different pathways in the forest themselves, and one might be to school. And then we're just kind of placing some clutter. There's not a ton of clutter on the exterior. We have some gardening plots because Hagrid does garden. And we've got like a lantern and his stairs. And that's pretty much it for the exterior. And then we move on to the interior. Now, I placed that fireplace because I knew that's immediately where that was going to go. And then we jump into his bedroom. Now, the floor plan's a little off from what it should be, but I decided to do it like this just because it made more sense in my head. So we've got his side door, which is where his bedroom is. And hiccups, I'm telling you. Leading out to the garden, we have some gardening tools on the side there. I also included several books. So Hagrid did get expelled. Was it his 3rd or 4th year? I'm a little rusty on my Harry Potter knowledge, don't judge. But he got expelled. But I think that he was pretty studious, especially when it comes to like plants and obviously beasts and things like that. So I think that he would have some literature hanging around. Maybe he's not the best reader, but I think he understands magic, and I think he understands the subjects that he's really, really interested in. So I included some of that. I included this little letter writing kit because he's always corresponding with Dumbledore. He's being sent on special missions, assignments, whatever you want to call them. And then I included that little bug container because he has pets all the time, weird ones, different ones, and I like the idea that maybe he had a little animal, a little tiny animal of some sort in there that maybe he was nursing back to health. That's kind of what I was picturing. And I do include a little toy box for Fang. He does have a big black lab. I think it's a black lab. I think he's a black lab, but he has a big dog that lives with him. So I included a toy chest and a food bowl, but I don't give them a bed because the dogs never use the pet beds. They just don't. I don't know why. We do go back and change that light later. I forgot that when you have candles, if you downsize them, the lights don't downsize, so it looks weird. We do go back and change that, so worry not. I decided instead of giving him a bathroom to just sort of separate a really shaky tub and toilet combo here with some privacy shades, or partitions as I would call them. And then we work on a tiny kitchen. So I gave him a sink. I gave him that little gas range just because I felt like if somebody wanted to download this, maybe they would want access to that. But then I don't do a fridge, so it's kind of pointless. And then we're just throwing up some clutter. Every time I saw something that I thought would work in the room somewhere else, I just placed it in random spots. So that's what's happening there. I decided to hang his pans and pots and stuff above his fireplace just because that felt like a good thing to do. Really, they'd be hanging from the ceiling, but I couldn't find them in separate pieces in the debug menu, and so I worked with what I had. And then again, we're just pulling out a bunch of things. So he's got teapots, he's got different containers that hold different liquids. I really do think Hagrid's up to more than we know. Meaning, I think he's up here doing, maybe not full bread potions, but he's definitely making his own like medicines. And I feel like he's a man that would brew his own like mead or whiskey or something like that. I definitely said weed, but that's not what I meant. I smushed words together. Anyway, he's up here brewing some stuff. Like, he's up to no good. I mean, he's got that pink umbrella with his wand still in it. So like, we know, right? We know. I also vaguely remember at some point that Hagrid was knitting I think it was his socks. I feel like it was his socks. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've read the books, so don't quote me on that. But since he knits, I decided to throw in some nifty knitting stuff. I think I throw in definitely the actual basket that you need to knit, but also a book to make it kind of look like maybe he's got a project like that he's about to start or in the middle of doing. In his bedroom, I don't know if you noticed, I did place a barrel because at one point there's a scene in, I think it's Goblet of Fire, actually. There might be more than one scene, but he sticks his whole head in a barrel because he was drunk and needed to wake up, which is really funny to me. And yeah, I tried to incorporate as much from what I knew of Hagrid into this build as I could with the limitations of what we have in The Sims 4. Now, if I had downloaded CC, we could have gone full ham, but like I said, it was already not a super functional build. I didn't want to oversaturate it with CC because I, one, didn't want to have to link it all, and two, I didn't want people to have to download a ton of stuff to be able to use the build if they wanted to download it and enjoy it themselves. Now I'm placing some what I would consider overstuffed armchairs around the place. He's got 3. He's also got 3 dining chairs just because I feel like that's how many he has. Now they would have been placed a little bit differently, and I went for some random mismatched brightly colored things just because that's Hagrid. He's just a little bit of an odd man, and I adore that about him. And I also gave him an odd number of dining chairs because I feel like he makes them himself, and I feel like he's broken a few. That's just the vibe I get. Also, that little fruitcake is actually treacle tart in my head. I know that's not what that looks like. And he's got some tins of fudge. So that's what that's for. And then one other thing to note, off camera, I actually placed some chips in the woodwork to give it more of a lived-in look. There's a little cabinet, the tea cabinet that came with Tiny Living, I think. That gets placed on the back of the door. It's hanging, and that fishnet stays the same. I don't think I add anything else to the build, but I forgot to place it where it needed to go. So if that feels weird, not a place as you're watching, it's because it is. But I did fix it, and you'll see it in the screenshots, I'm sure. But I didn't do it on camera. I actually had backed out and was like, wait a minute, you forgot about all of this stuff that you just did not do. And it happens. I got really distracted because I was really excited. That's my only excuse. And then in this little bathroom area, I realized there wasn't a whole lot going on, and I wanted a little something to be happening. So I gave him a plant. I feel like that's a plant that probably eats dead bugs or something. Not quite a Venus flytrap, but it does something because it's Hagrid. It's going to be doing something. And then we have some animal traps, and we've got some pictures of birds on the wall by the bathroom. Like I said, Hagrid's really into creatures, so it would track for me that he would have pictures of birds and dragons and nifflers and everything else in a place where he might be relaxing. And that's the end of the build, guys. As always, feel free to leave a like or a comment down below letting me know what you think. You can also subscribe if that's something that would spark joy for you. The screenshots will be on Instagram if you want to hop over there and check those out. I will see you on Monday with my next video, and in the meantime, I hope you have a lovely day and a lovely rest of your week. Bye, guys.